Hi there. Today I'm taking a look at a wine from Southern Chile from the Itata region, and this is Martino Viejas Tinajas Cinsault 2018. The reason I was going to try this is one of our team here suggested that it would be nice to draw some attention to these wines, as the region has recently been ravaged by some wildfires and it's been quite destructive there. This is an area with quite small vineyard holdings, and they're all unirrigated bush vines, and as a result the vineyards have actually burned. It's unusual in cases of bushfires for large areas of vineyards to burn. That's not normally such an issue because these vineyards are irrigated, they take up a large area, but these smaller plots have really rather taken it, and there are descriptions I've read of vineyards where there's simply burned stumps remaining, and given the fact that quite a few of these vines were quite old vines, that's a real shame. To talk about Itata first, here we're in southern Chile, not quite the southernmost grape growing region, but almost. We're about more than 500 kilometres south of Santiago, I believe. Slightly in from the coast, about 15 kilometres in, with an altitude of about 150 metres above sea level, thereabouts. So you have cooling influences from the sea, you have reasonably high humidity, probably about a metre of rain a year. The vineyards, as I say, are small, they're unirrigated, they tend to be bush vines, they tend to be relatively densely planted. They also, this vineyard, for instance, I believe is on its own roots, which is not unusual for Chile, of course, because they have no phylloxera there, but nonetheless, that's the way that this is being done here. A lot of very traditional viticulture here, and viticulture in Itata goes back. I'm told that or notes suggest that the first viticulture here started in 1551. So it was one of the first places that grew grapes in Chile. Not suggesting that those vineyards are still in place, but. So there's a historical significance there, and the area's had quite a rejuvenation in the last 10 years in terms of people trying to take advantage of its history and to produce some really interesting wines there. And Martino are one of the companies that have been at the fore of that. They're quite a large family-owned winery based in Maipo, further north, who have put quite a bit of investment and both of time and money into developing vineyards in this area. Produce some really quite interesting wines. The company dates back to 1934, when Italian immigrants started it, as I say, in Maipo, and 4 generations on, it's still in family hands. The wine, as I say, quite traditionally made, the Viejas Tinajas that they talk about in their wine's name there, are old amphorae of varying sizes, most of which are over 100 years old, so that they're not using new amphorae, although they have bought those for their wineries elsewhere. And the fruit is entirely hand-picked. For this wine, it's put into these amphorae to do a semi-carbonic maceration, so much as you would with a Beaujolais, to sort of to soften the tannins and allow good extraction of colour and flavour. The wine's allowed to ferment naturally with its own ambient yeasts. It stays in the amphora, I believe, for about a year. There's no fining or filtration, so this is vegetarian, vegan friendly, and in fact I will mention it's a little cloudy, and the only treatment it receives is a small dose of SO2 just to keep it stable. So looking at the wine, let's see what we've got. As I say, slightly cloudy, but actually has a, it's not a deep colour, but it's a dark red. There's no purple in that whatsoever, but the red in there is almost a sort of a black red, though I can see the bottom of the glass, despite the fact it's cloudy, I can see the bottom of the glass when looking through the wine. Let's have a look at the aromas, shall we? Although, first of all, just note on the fact there's not a particularly heavy tears flowing down the glass. The label says it's 12.5% alcohol. This is not a huge weighty wine, but the aromas are the aromas are almost sort of quite fresh fermentation aromas, and yet this is a 2018 wine, so it's been in bottle for at least 3 years, probably longer. But those vibrant aromas are of red fruits, raspberry, sort of that sort of spicy note to raspberry, red cherry, but in the sense of the sort of the red cherry on the red to black spectrum, where it's just getting that little bit riper. I suppose there are notes of sweet spice. They're possibly lifted sort of estery notes, almost sort of banana-y sort of notes, which I suppose would hark back to the carbonic maceration. That's for taste. The wine's quite light-bodied, it's light to medium-bodied. There is a fine tannin there, but it's smooth. It's not particularly drying or astringent. What there is a lovely rounded fruit. I mean, obviously, because there's no oak influence whatsoever, so there's a fruit purity here. Again, it's that sort of slightly spicy raspberry note, slightly lifted kirsch cherry, black cherry note there, and throughout the entire thing a vibrancy, not particularly because it's got high acidity, although there's a lovely freshness, but the alcohol's not too high. It's completely in balance, and the finish is not exceptionally long, but lasts nicely, and is this again clean expression of maybe slightly estery, slightly spicy raspberry sort of fruit there. Maybe those sort of high notes of sort of slightly banana-y notes. Yes, I mean, I think that's a great value, very interesting expression of Cinsault, attractive, easy drinking, not a wine for long aging, very approachable now, very characterful. So yes, please do consider looking at the wines of Itata. I think you'll find them very enjoyable, and I think the producers could probably do with a hand from us as well just at the moment. Thank you for your time, and do join us again. Bye now.